Story, species, story, medicine, extra strength. Ready to take your medicine with Gina Casella?
Species of medicine, open for the task. Extra strength is everything you'd ever ask. Many with the soil, many with the seed. Earth is a medicine for you and for me. Scrubbing out the tarnish, building up the trust. Honest little tales, rising from the rust. Truth is in the living, truth is in the skin. Open up the portal, let the healing in. Extra strength, extra soul. Medicine to make us whole. Feel the rhythm, feel the pace. In every single space. Are you ready for the cure? Keep it steady, keep it pure. Extra strength.
Hey, Dragon Dreamers, Gina Casella here, and thank you so much for joining me today on Story Species, Story Medicine. I've got an amazing guest with me today, Laura Ferguson, also known as Starseed Lolo. That's her music name, and you know what? If you've been following me, then you would know that she was one of our dragon healers and dragon presenters at our recent conference, Summer Days, which was a huge success. And you can get the replay on my Buy Me a Coffee shop. So it's just such a thrill. And one of the reasons Laura was a featured speaker is because two of her songs were used for my first two mini movies. So if you remember what those songs were, you can put them in the chat. And in just a minute, I'll tell you what they were. I'll try to remember to tell you what they were anyways. So put that in the chat if you know which two songs of Starseed Lolo that I used for my first two mini movies. And we're going to watch those mini movies too today with Laura. So let me just read her biography here. There's so much to say. Laura Ferguson, MBA, Masters. She is a wife, very devoted mother, Air Force veteran. Under her musician's name, Starseed Lolo, she writes and sings EDM, Latin alternative, and hip hop music. She also screenwrites the Starseed Voice podcast, which focuses on ASMR sound healing. She also channels bi-weekly on Michael Kopp's On the Energy That Surrounds Us, and bi-weekly on Thursdays with Jennifer Taylor in the UK. She had, on April 29th, Laura's Book Fest press release came out, so you can look into that. And she was also honorably mentioned twice in the Entanglement, Planet X and Mars at the Book Fest Awards, Spring 2026. So this is all very fresh. Laura, as I mentioned, was also featured as our Dragon Healer and presenter for the Summer Days Conference, where two of her songs were used in my first two mini movies. So does anybody know what two songs I'm talking about? And I see there's some comments here. We've got some hellos, we've got Laura's link, and I'm going to link there too. Here we go. Okay, so one of the songs I used for my first mini movie called Lushing was Dark Night of the Soul. And then the other song that I used for the second mini movie was The Dragon. And it was a real thrill and pleasure working with Laura behind the scenes because she also created the intro song for this, right? So in the last month and a half, 2 months, hopefully Laura's not sick of me by now, but we've been communicating so much. For all of these reasons, so show us some loving, visit Laura's page. The link that I put in the chat, it's super user friendly. This one here, I'll just put it on the screen for a moment. You can purchase Laura's music for $1 a song. If you subscribe to Spotify, you have access to there. And Laura also offers services. So if you wanted her to create an intro song for your show that you host, or if you're making movies or something like that, then you can do that and she'll tailor it for you. So it's really cool. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but she also channels. And so if we have time today, we'll get into that. So I always have lots to say, and I always tend to get ahead of myself. So welcome to New Dragons. Let me bring Laura Ferguson here to this stage. Starseed Lolo. Hi, Laura. How are you doing today?
Hi, Gina. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, you're on pause.
Am I on pause?
Still on pause.
How do I get off this pause?
No.
Uh-oh. What is going
So
on?
just before we came live, there was like a scratching noise, but it was fine. And now I can't hear you at all. Is that
Can you
on my
hear me?
end? Can somebody let us know in the chat if you can hear Laura? Is it just me that can't hear her?
Okay. I'm going to go on YouTube
Okay.
and see.
Oh, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know what happened, but
reset.
all of a sudden,
I don't know what happened either.
okay. I unplugged my big mic too, so okay, we've got sound. So welcome, Laura Ferguson, Starseed Lolo. Thank you for being here today. Such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Gina. I'm glad to be back. I'm excited about watching your mini movies again and hearing how it fits in and ties in with all the music and all that good stuff.
Yes, and it's just a matter of if, not a matter of when, folks are going to start confusing my work with Steven Spielberg, right? So just to put it out there, and it'll be your music on the first two mini movies, and so that's really fantastic. So I tend to be scattered. In theory, I'm organized. Let's just go over some pictures that I have here. So Laura's a returning guest. She's been on my show before. So if you want to scroll back into my playlist, you can find those shows. This special dragon picture is really special because the song that I was just talking about, the dragon, the credits there, all in the name of the Dragon Dreams Soul Tribe Collective. The conference that I was talking about, Summer Days, as you can see here, the top left, Laura Ferguson was featured, along with other Dragon Dreamers as well. And Laura did her presentation on the Starseed template. It was a phenomenal presentation, and Laura was really engaging with the audience. Again, if you missed it, you can purchase the replay. And I asked the presenters if they had a special message. And Laura, her special message was, imagine and create your reality. You manifest your dreams by taking action and following your highest passion. And I just love that, So, so how are you doing over there, Laura? Are you just clearing the energy, or I heard a dinging noise?
Yeah, I hit one of my crystal bowls, but you know me, I love the sound stuff, and so it's always around me, literally.
Yeah, I thought maybe it was intentionally or something like that because usually I don't have internet issues, and I've been having some problems lately. Somebody was picking on Slavka and I last week or whatever it was. So, anyways, not going to let that get the best of us. So, Laura, the conference, what were some of the highlights for you? You did the sound healing, and it actually put Julia Ankerhaven right to sleep. She commented in the comments that she was feeling very relaxed and that she felt like she was going to go to sleep, and then we didn't hear from her for a while. I thought it was very peaceful. I felt like I was a baby or a small child, and I felt like I was being nourished. Like my mom was around me, and everything was fine, everything was safe, and my mom was like singing, just kind of making little noises. So that really resonated with me. How are you feeling about the sound healing that you provided?
Same, because while I'm doing it, I'm also getting a healing as well. And it's a two-way, feedback loop, an endless, infinite feedback loop, because we're all connected and we're all of source. And I believe, there's some people that kind of forget that. And I am not doing any healing per se. I am creating the environment and facilitating the environment for healing, you always heal yourself. So I want people to understand that, because a lot of people say, I'm a healer, and they kind of don't explain that, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I totally know what you mean. And thank you for saying that, because I forget to mention that myself often. Because I identify as a healer, but for what it's worth, I really don't do anything. It's the client who lets it in and ultimately heals themselves. And I forget even to remind people, because that's how powerful we are. And we can choose to let it in or not. So when we're co-dreaming, we're also co-healing. And so a lot of the presenters got really emotional about their presentations, because it was the first time they put it together in a structured way. And they're commenting that when they were sharing their story medicine, they were actually receiving healing just by having an audience to bear witness to it. And I haven't had a chance to chat with you since the conference, and so you're in synchronicity with that, and your comments about also receiving healing. And I love the I'm not one to get hung up on words, but facilitator, because ultimately you create the environment, and people let it in. What about your presentation, this Starseed? Do you want to just maybe give a quick summary in case somebody out there wasn't able to make the conference?
Yeah, so for me, I call it the Starseed template, because I channel mostly another version, or the higher self that shows itself in an extraterrestrial light or in a starseed light. And so for me, it's a starseed template, because that's what it's related to. And it's basically about the spiritual awakening. And I had a crows following me, and then I literally saw this on Gaia TV being described the same, which led me to the song The Dark Night of the Soul, because it was described as a Nigredo stage in Latin, meaning black, or as some call it, depression, and is the first stage of awakening per Dr. Carl Jung. And this all ties together. And so, long story short, I realized that we're all awakening. We all are conscious, and we all, at some point in our life, whether we call it a midlife crisis, which I don't really like that word for it, because it has negative connotations, but we're all having a spiritual awakening. And so we're not alone. We have unique perspective as an individual. However, collectively, we are all awakening. The question is, do you realize? Do you lead to that point? Do you go down that rabbit hole when you take the red pill, so to speak, of the matrix?
Yes, that's a great way to sum it up. Those of you who weren't able to make the conference. And, whenever I hear that word template, I always think of original. And the original can be altered, right? But I think back to like early in my teaching career, people would talk about templates, and that was intimidating. So I was like, oh my God, I don't have a template. What is this template? And things like Canva and whatnot were not available back when I started my teaching career. And so having a template, like an original of something that you could work with and even cut it and paste it like physically, that's what I think about. And then in a very positive way and also in a very negative way, I see the cutting and pasting of who we are and who we want to be, and daring to dream uh, our dreams, because this whole dark night of the soul business, and like you said, this midlife crisis, it's kind of like responding to the call. I mean, the phone rings metaphorically, but then it's like, well, are you even going to answer it? And then if you answer it, it's like, well, are you even going to listen? Okay, well, maybe now you've listened. Are you actually going to fall through with it? And then now we can get into a conversation about the hero's journey. And so I was going to ask you, like the dark night of the soul, maybe there's some kind of hero's journey unfolding in your music theme, because I forget what it's called. Maybe you can help me out. But like your album is basically a whole entire story. It's not just like one song and then a different song. Like each song kind of blends into each other, right? And so I see your music being like a story series, if you will. Um, What are your thoughts on anything that I said?
Gina, you're very sharp because you caught on to the fact that I am painting a picture, and it is not a picture of, see it my way, this is it, because all perspectives are valid. It is a picture of a reflection that we should all tell our stories. Why? Because it's a story of us, and you being you is your highest purpose and your only purpose, really. Following your passion, you also touched on action. If we don't take action for our passions, we are generally going to be kept in suffering, which means we're not spending the time doing what we love to do, even if it's 5 minutes a day. And it took me from roughly 2021 to about 2024 to get to the point where I could do what I love to do full time. However, I did get there. I knew I was going to get there. And on the days of working an office job, I'll bet a good career that I was not happy in, I told myself, now is not forever. While taking those actions to incrementally inch my way like a little inchworm, publishing children's books in 2023, winning an award on that one, publishing another one, winning an award, doing a Spanish book of one of those, and then doing The Entanglement, my first adult book of the destruction in Atlantis, Tiamat, and Mars, because that doesn't really exist right now, writing it for film and kind of just going from there. The point is, I took action to get to where I am, and now I do it full time. And so can you, and so can you, and so can you.
Yes, that's very inspiring. And I think a lot of us, we watch too many movies and we have unrealistic expectations, and then we get very discouraged. We get hard on ourselves, and you need to take action. Like any goal, nobody's going to manifest it for you. You have to do it for you. You got to literally sit there with your calendar and look at the time that you have and see what's reasonable. Set due dates for yourself. So you have to have that self motivation and drive, which I feel is linked to your higher passion. It should feel like a natural process. And no, it's not going to be perfect. And yes, there will be lots of challenges, right? So, can you take us back to your awakening when all these crows were around you? Because for some people, that might be scary and intimidating, right? There's like all these random birds around them. But I mean, give us insight, because it's not like they were just like cawing and attacking your car or anything. Like you were there, they're off to the side, but it's like synchronicity and the presence is strong. Tell us more about the crows.
So I've spoken about it a couple other times, however, not enough. And so thank you for asking about that. For me, I kept seeing crows. I live in Sacramento, California, which is 2 million people in the county. However, it's surrounded by fields and, wetlands that are protected. And so I just one day noticed that crows were following me. I was mostly alone, just walking above my car in the city, and then, going to lunch and going here and going there. It doesn't matter where I went. Then this few mile radius, within the matter of 2 to 3 weeks, I saw 5 crows. I saw 3. I saw 2. They would hop down the little ramp when I was going in the parking garage underneath. And then one day, I literally heard a loud noise, like a loud vibration. And I was stuck in traffic. And I rolled down my window and I looked, and there were like thousands of crows, like the biggest murder of crows you can imagine, like 10,000 of them in like, 200 trees. Sacramento's a city of trees, supposedly number 2 in the world with the most trees, and so there were just crows everywhere. And then I look up at the sky, and, there's another 5,000 of them cawing, really loudly. And then I even tell one of my doctors at the Department of Veteran Affairs, because I was in the Air Force, I'm like, is it normal for me to be having a spiritual awakening and to realize this with crows? And it's like that time when they were just screaming in the trees. I knew, I guess, clairsentient, you're having a spiritual awakening. And then I realized we all are. And my doctor didn't bat an eyelash because I didn't tell her I was hearing voices. I told her I just knew because of the crows. And she said, yeah, I'm like, so I'm having a spiritual awakening. She's like, yeah. I'm like, I could be. She's like, yeah. Because, when we have something called trauma, or something that we see as trauma, or past experiences that we're healing from, again, dark night of the soul, that is our greatest propelling factor to slingshot, which means there's a purpose for everything, even trauma. And so I realized this, that it's not just like there's bad and there's good, because really energy is neutral to neutral positive. It's how you define it. It's not what happens, it's what you do with it. And then I realized this is not just happening to me, this is happening to everyone on some level. And it depends on how thin their veil is for this iteration of them.
Yes, that was a great answer. And when you were talking about like a slingshot, I hear you on that one. Um, it's like a wheel turning, in that roller coaster. So there's all this anticipation that you're not even like, you think, oh, this is just stress in my life, whatever, and you push it off. But it's like, no, you are approaching your dark night of the soul. And then when it hits, it's like going down the roller coaster or whatever. You just fly down and you slam and hit the ground. Um, before you even know what happened. And that can also be traumatizing. I really like that the person you had a conversation with, the professional, was open to this. I know with my doctors, like I wouldn't be able to talk about spiritualism. They might just brush it off or make a recommendation for me to go see somebody spiritual without really looking into it, right? So that means a lot to me. I was going to ask you the crows. Um, Crows date back since the ancient times, really important symbols linked to all kinds of things, gatekeepers, death, messengers. Something I really appreciate about crows is they don't migrate, they stay where they are. And so there's a saying, I don't know where it comes from, but there's an old saying, if a crow likes you, it'll stick around. So it's worth noting that if they wanted to go somewhere else, they're very able and capable of doing that. Crows live all over the world. So it's really special when they're around you. But for somebody to have like thousands around them, it's like, whoa, it's like clearly there was lots of messaging going in. Now, I wanted to ask you if you've ever felt connected with archetypes like the Morrigan or Morgan Le Fay, because they're noted in literature as having this like, seerism and raven crows symbolism, or maybe there was some other kind of literature that related, or maybe not. Maybe it's just like, what the hell are all these crows doing? And there's no meaning to you. I guess to clarify my question is, did crows have any symbolic meaning to you before this experience?
Not really, other than pushing me to get a DNA test done, because my dad is a Mexican Native American, and I wanted to see how indigenous am I really. Turns out I'm about a third, 29-30%, just under a third. And after realizing that, I'm also like 11% North African, 4% African, and then the rest is European for my mom and a little Spaniard for my dad. But either way, I realized that when I started channeling, which came from meditation and hypnosis, even of myself, or QHHT, or the practitioner, or hypnotist, type of individuals such as yourself, which I have a couple of those on YouTube. One of them was really funny because I said, I am Julius Caesar. And in a recent channeling, I explained, I am not literally Julius Caesar. However, in that moment, because we are likely under the same oversoul, I was able to like borrow the information like a computer and experience Julius Caesar temporarily, because a lot of people were like, I am Cleopatra and I am this and I am whoever. And there's a lot of misinformation about that out there in the community. So I just wanted to mention that. However, the crows, no. not directly, other than the fact that third indigenous, and I really vibrate on that level rather than the European religious level that was forced upon people. Like my great grandpa was 100% native, and my dad's about 2/3, and by the Spaniards because they're in Mexico, and I'm part Mayan, South American, and Nahuatl, which is Aztec, and so all mixed in there, all three of them. And so it's kind of funny too, because when psychics read me, they almost always say, I see the Indians, I see the Indians. And I'm like, what about my 60% European, relatives? But, the Native American side sent the crows to me via the ant people, which are extraterrestrial insectoids that helped, part of my family there, like in the southwestern desert, on down to Mexico, because they're underground interdimensional beings that love places like the Southwest, the Grand Canyon, the Rocky Mountains, Mars, those kinds of places.
Oh, that's really special, and I feel like when we investigate our history, that's part of responding to the call, whether we're conscious of it or not. There's something within us that's saying, look into your ancestry. There's some kind of message or map or clue. And going back to what you mentioned earlier, when you have a goal, one baby step at a time, right? Like this is all part of those baby steps that we may or may not even be aware of. So I find that really interesting. When you're channeling, going back to your comment using Julius Caesar for an example, so so when you're channeling Julius Caesar, or anybody, you're like the hollow bone, so to speak, where, just to oversimplify things, and I mean really oversimplify things, somehow your spirit energy field moseys on over to Julius Caesar and taps into the mind and the thinking. So if I ask you a question about like, hey, Julius Caesar, what's your favorite food choice or something? You could tell me, but would you be reading Julius Caesar's mind, or would Julius Caesar be like, oh, I'm having a thought, somebody wants to know something, and now I'm talking and I'm not even sure what's going on? Like what's happening to Julius Caesar when you're channeling, I never thought about it.
It's just reading the energy, just like how we would do any other reading, whether it's Akashic. It's kind of like reading the Akashic records. And I had a dream about Britney Spears, which told me that we're under the same oversoul too. And no, it's not only like famous people, but sometimes it's a no-name sea captain, or that was a Scottish queen or something like that. And so it's not always going to be someone glorious and, as we see as famous or whatever. But whoever comes through via the higher self, everything is source. I let it come through. I don't stop it. Who needs to come through, or, entity, whether it's extraterrestrial, somebody like that, I let them come through. And whether I'm, hypnotized in a session privately or here channeling, for me, it's all the same. And I don't stop it. There was like a weird collective called Jarti or Kajarti, and they were frog people that came through with Michael Koff. And I'm like, what are these frog people? And I'm like, frog people? What the hell is that? Because, I'm just thinking like spiritual community. We know about the Greys. We know about reptilians, and frog people. Like, what the hell? And they told me to say it. They're like, we're frog people. Do we want to talk? This is a collective. It sounds weird. We don't care. And, so I just let through whomever, whatever energy collective needs to come through. Yes, it's filtered through my higher self. So it's going to be my perspective as a reflection bouncing back to you. And again, we don't have to agree. That's something in the human culture that we love to do, is disagree or agree with each other. We don't have to, if it's not for you, it's not for you. Or maybe you're meant to hear it just so you can disagree, and takes you, leads you somewhere else.
Yes, absolutely. And I love frog people because I've heard of not frog people before, but I've heard of like Blind Frog Ranch or whatever it's called. And I've heard of like froggy type, toady type ancestor folk. So frog folk, frog people. And I like that because when it comes to the reptilians, we tend to put all the reptiles in the same category. And I take it all with a grain of salt, right? But I've seen lots of pictures that people like draw and use AI to help generate of the reptilians. But there's lots of different kinds of reptilians. Like there's some that kind of look like alligator folk, and then there's some that look more snaky looking. And so why wouldn't there be some that look more froggy looking? You know what I mean? And then at what point does it get more fishy looking? So we have reptiles, but we also have amphibians like frogs and turtles. And when I think about things like fish, for example, they don't have a choice. They have to stay in the water, right, or they die. But a frog could go in and out of the water, and it makes me feel excited about this business of sea and sky because I have a belief. It's my belief that sea and sky used to be one. It was just there was no separation. Then things got separated for whatever reasons. But there were folks like amphibian folk that I feel a close connection with because I resonate with the in between places, which I feel you probably do too, because of your channeling. Um, so I just think that's cool. And also because frogs and toad have medicine, which often gets communicated as drugs, right? People are getting high and licking the backs of toads. But it's actually it could be compared to ayahuasca in the sense that it's something extreme that you would do because it really opens the gateway in your mind to those higher sources. And when you're dealing with those higher sources, it could really freak you out. Um, and you need to know what you're doing too. Like you're mixing around chemicals, right? So, anyways, that inspired my thinking. I love to think. Um, Okay, well, I feel like I could talk to you all day. We've already been chatting for half an hour. If anybody has any questions for Laura, Starseed, Lolo, put them in the comments. We're gonna watch those two movies very, very soon. They're only like 3 to 4 minutes long each. And then if Laura's open to it, we can channel or just receive a message, whatever is comfortable to do. But before we do that, tell us about your latest song because I forget now what it's called, but I feel like you just came out with 2, maybe even 3 songs. Um, Night Vision was one of them, and that's really catchy, right? Turn up the vision. I don't know. And then there's another one. And my question is, it's kind of a double question. Like, are you strategically releasing one song every 2 weeks, one song a month, or do they just kind of come out whenever? Or, like, what is the song about? Why did you create the latest song?
So yes and yes. I work with what's called an A&R music executive person who recruited me. I'm independent. However, she's a part of Sony Orchard, which is an entity of Sony. And generally I go by the guidelines of what they have, or they won't accept my music for release. If there's a song that they won't accept for release because it's AI instrumental, I sing all my own vocals, then I will release it on my own, independent of the Sony Orchard. It's obviously better to go under them because they're a bigger name, way much bigger name. And thank you for sharing the link. So generally they like me to do at least like one single a month and then add it up until we have what's called an EP album of roughly 4 to 6 songs. Then we release the EP album, which we're working on hopefully by next month. And then we do the full album. And so it's like a layer of a cake or a sandwich, single, 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 EP, and then album. Strategically done probably within 6 months time, and that's kind of the plan. And right now I'm working on more songs that are not made with any AI because it is very easy for me to produce and generate an AI instrumental and then just go sing on that, dub over the AI voice. I could be done with that in one day. However, Sony Orchard does not want that, and I am working on more instrumental, hire musicians because I don't play instruments other than sound healing. And synthetic is okay, like synthetic drums, like with a real guitar. The dragon is one of them. If I can't release the dragon, which I made for your beautiful podcast under my EP on Sony Orchard, I will release it myself independently just to get it out there, because that was made with AI instrumental. However, I sang my natural voice over it, no AI enhancement, just a little bit of reverb, auto tune, effects like that.
Wow. And you know what? Like, leave it to the pros, right? They've been there, done that. They know the patterns and what sells and everything. Do you ever feel pressure? Like, I got to create a song, by this due date? Or is it like a healthy, positive pressure?
Yeah. Yeah. Because by June 15th, my EP was supposed to be out, and then Sony Orchard rejected because of AI instrumental. And I explained to my rep and said, but it's all my voice. None of it is even AI enhanced, because you can even enhance your vocals, 20% with AI or 10% with AI. And I'm not talking background vocals, your main vocals. And like nobody would know the difference, because we did that on one or two of my songs before, older songs. And I said, none of them are AI enhanced. Those are my vocals, but the instrumental's AI, and then there's real guitar added. But even though the real live guitar was added in the live vocals, they still rejected it because the backing track or the instrumental was AI. And so, yes, I have rehired a music teacher in India named Sukhindo Chakraborty. He's very good. He was a music teacher at a school, and he does the synthetic drums. However, he plays bass guitar, he plays nylon string, electronic guitar, or electric guitar. I write the song. I have been showing him an AI track that I like, and then I ask him, make it real, like sprinkle your musician dust and compose it. So there's no AI instrumental, just synth drums and real instruments. And then I'm going to resubmit that to Sony Orchard. So because of that, my EP is taking longer to do. However, I'm going to have that quality, where it's not an AI instrumental track. And for me, there's nothing wrong with that. However, for a business decision, it's better for me to release them on Sony Orchard than just me by myself.
That seems to make sense. And I personally really enjoyed the strumming of Dark Night of the Soul. Like, I feel like you could take just the strumming, like have like an acoustic version or something. And then I love the electric guitar. And so even the song The Dragon, just having like a quiet kind of electric only version of the dragon would be nice. And you know what? There's so many imposters today, right? So it's nice that you're making it a point to use AI to help you create. They're really owning it by using your own voice. Um, do you feel like this is why you had dreams of Britney Spears, because the musical piece, or were there other reasons things connecting with you? Yeah, you share the same soul or something you were saying?
Yeah. My higher self told me that because of the dichotomy of my extended family, whom I don't speak to anymore, or don't speak to me anymore because of fighting and verbal abuse, that kind of thing, or just straight out crap talking. And I refuse to be in that environment, which has been 1,000 times better for me and my children. The dichotomy of that, and then from a third party point of view, I wasn't Britney. However, I didn't have a body, and I was witnessing her being mistreated by her extended family. And my higher self clairsentiently basically told me we're under the same oversoul, because an oversoul, for example, they say there's 144,000 souls on Gaia, in this version of Gaia, not billions of souls, 144,000. And then all of the billions of souls branch out from the oversouls. If that makes sense. And then each soul fractal branches out.
I wonder if that is simultaneously the starred seed template, not to overthink things, but that's what I thought about. Like, you have your master template, like the master soul, and then it kind of has like babies, like you have like the mother load, if you will, and then it all like kind of splits out. That's really interesting. And hi, Danny, see you there in the in the chat. And there's like a skipping going on here. Mahira commenting that she had to leave. Wow, that's really interesting. And then I wrote clairsentient and I kept circling it when you were talking because I feel like, yeah, clairsentient, you just have these like thoughts drop into you. You don't hear voices. Um, so that's really great. That's really interesting. All right. Any other thoughts from you, Laura, before we watch the 2 mini movies?
No, Gina. However, I'm really excited to see them again, and I'm excited to do some channeling afterwards.
Yeah. So this is like really exciting. Honestly, like behind the scenes, I've played these movies so much, I'm kind of sick of them. But before the conference, I made it a point not to watch Dark Night of the Soul so that it could be like exciting and new again. And then I felt that feeling. And then before we met live, I was watching it again. So you can find both of these Dragon Dreamers who are tuning in my YouTube. I created a playlist called something like Movie Medicine, and you can find it in there. And the intention, speaking about quality, so hands down, I'm an amateur, okay? But the intention is that I'm creating a bunch of mini movies, see what folks are interested in, and then maybe transform that into a longer, lengthier movie that's better quality. So the first movie I did all by myself, and something I'm really proud of was like trying to match the beat of the song with a new slide. That was a bit challenging for me. And at one point, it just kept skipping. It would just skip like an entire sentence of the song. So behind the scenes, Laura probably sent me the link like a million times over, but it did eventually work at one point. So if you're an amateur like me, do not be discouraged, okay? And speaking of being an amateur, I guess if somebody was an amateur musician and wanted to create music like you, Laura, do you offer mentorship? Can they find that on your website or just spontaneously create it if someone out there is interested?
They can always reach out to me, starseedlolo.com and Starseed Lolo Music on like all platforms other than X. And I'd be happy to help them. If it's just a few questions, I'll just, point them in the direction. Go to BandLab, download the app. You're at a free studio to make songs. There you go. Get a microphone, headphones, and you're good to go, which most people have anyway. Talk on the phone. If it's something more in depth, then we'll talk about, a package or something like that.
I think that's really cool, because I forget myself sometimes, but going back to like our conversation earlier, achieving goals, we forget that somebody else is 500 steps behind us and at their wits' end wondering, like, what is the next step? Who do I talk to? What link do I visit? And it's like all fresh in your mind, right? So, okay. So when I play this movie, it's going to remove both Laura and myself from the stage. This one is movie number 1. I did it all by myself. Dark Night of the Soul is the song, and the song is called Lushing. Okay.
That was great.
Thank you. So I was watching it and I was actually feeling uncomfortable because I was like, it's not about the images, hands down, they could be better. But like that is a really scary story. And so if anybody is tuning in, you can read the story. I have it for free on my Buy Me a Coffee. So you go in the shop to get it, but it's free. And you can also find it in book 8, Scary Dreams. It's based on a real nightmare that I had. In fact, all of book 8 is really scary. And I just, wow, like I feel like maybe after people read it, they'll see why it's so scary. But this next one isn't scary. This next one, Michael Kopp helped me to create, and it's about me getting my gemstone readings together and whatnot. And there was too much to focus on. So let me just play it. And you know what? A final thought about the last one. The first time you hear Dark Night of the Soul, there's those two kids, the boy and the girl, and they're in like their martial arts outfits, and it's like, hey, yeah, is like in sync with Dark Night, punch, kick, elbow. Like, I don't know, but it was like really cool for me anyways. Okay, and I'm just over talking. I was excited. Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for watching it. Okay, here's the next one. This movie is called Project 30 ISIS Unity Consciousness, and it has the song The Dragon. All right, here we go.
In the shadow of the mountainside, where the ancient spirits like to hide, I feel the chill of a ghostly breath, dancing on the edge of life and death. All the dragon waits in the velvet night, scales of obsidian, eyes of light, a mighty power from the depths below, watching as the embers start to glow. Whispers echo through the hollow hall, ghostly figures leaning against the wall. They tell the tales of the fire and bone, of a kingdom built on a dragon's stone. Oh, the dragon waits in the velvet night, scales of obsidian, eyes of light, a mighty power
movie number 2. I forgot about that ocean music at the end. We had a hard time cutting it back. And Michael and I, I wanted the slides to be different timings, but he wanted each slide to be 5 seconds. So we're going to work on that in the future. But thank you so much for letting me play that. We're going to get into some channeling now. So if anybody has any questions for Laura, hi, Iron Bear, I see you there in the chat. Let us know. I'll let Laura transition. I know I'm always full of questions, but I'm open to just receiving any messages as well.
Okay. And I just want to tell you, Gina, that I love that movie because it shows a mini story of your history of your readings. Back, I don't know, earlier this year when I first heard you and saw you on Michael's show, you gave me a mini reading, which was accurate. However, more importantly, when I heard you and then I saw you, I'm like, that woman is a seer, S-E-E-R, a major seer, and you just have beautiful energy, so soft, however, strong at the same time. Perfect balance of masculine and feminine, which I love, and just so beautiful inside and out. So I just want to point that out. And
thank you for that. Yeah, the video, we could spend a long time just talking about those videos, right? But the second one, I was really down in the dumps, not well with my health. And then the whole gemstone thing started unfolding. And when I started sharing it with the world, I was a bit shy, but it was well received. But then when I started talking about how I wanted to put movies together and conferences, oh my gosh, that one slide where the girl's all crying, that was me. It's like, what is going on? I'm trying to do something positive, but it's just a clear not in right relationship and how epigenetics matters,
you got it.
Yeah, so thank you for that. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So I'm going to do a very short sound healing, and then when you need to bring me out, just give me a heads up, it's like this is the last question or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yep.
The Darty are here. You spoke their name, and they came.
Hello. Thank you for joining us. I didn't. Did they provide us with a name? I didn't get that.
The Darty.
The Darty. The frog people.
Yes.
The frog people. I was hoping you would come in because I don't know if you were tuning in earlier, but I was commenting on how frog folks are, frogs are amphibians. And so I'm wondering, the frog folks that you are, the Darchi, if you see yourself as an amphibian in the sense that you can go in the water and on land. Can you breathe in the water? Can you go into outer space in that sense?
Yes, we are humanoids which go in the water with an amphibious skin. And we also have, as you call, spaceships in multiple galaxies, in multiple realities. However, this iteration of Gaia does know water creatures from Sirius. While that is true, we are throughout every infinite reality.
Interesting. Thank you for that. And I'm very curious too. I can't help but wonder, the frog life cycle. So frogs are born, as an egg, and then they become a tadpole, and they actually have a tail, right? And then the tail, it outgrows it. It just becomes part of the body. And then you have your adult frog. And I'm wondering, are the humanoids you are, do you metamorphosize like that as well?
Yes, however, our cycle is longer than, as you call it, a tadpole, roughly 90 days from spawning to birth to walking.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you. And then I'm wondering too about medicine. Toads and frogs are known for having medicine on their body for two reasons. One, because they swim in polluted areas, but also when frogs feel scared, they perfume out a protection, and that protection is toxic. But then people will use that as medicine. And I'm wondering, does your skin perfume out toxins that folks like myself could use as a medicine?
It doesn't, as you are maybe referring to items such as Cambo. Cambo is taken on Earth via the frogs, the poisonous frogs from the Amazonian forests and whatnot, and other tropical areas throughout Southeast Asia and Asia, South America, Central America. However, those are like very, 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 very distant cousins, and that mainly our body is humanoid and our head is amphibious with abilities to be able to not only swim, breathe underwater, and to also walk on land. However, we do have protections in our skins so that our skins will not dry out, will not get burnt, and can thrive full-time on land or in water. We do not have what you call poisonous Cambo. No.
That's interesting. And you were a step ahead of me there, reading my mind maybe, because I was going to ask about your body shape. I picture frog people with big shoulders because the head is, triangular in shape. Um, so, like you look like people, but with a froggy type of head. But are your legs on the skinny side? And do you have big, long feet? Um, I wonder because those are characteristics of frogs. Do you have big hands as well?
Yes, we have the webbed feet or webbed hands. They are longer and wider for swimming. However, our feet are about half the length proportionate to our body as a normal frog, quote unquote, because we stand up. We are bipedal. However, we still have the webbed, mostly larger on the top, as you're saying, hands that almost look like flippers. And from the bottom, yes, our legs are smaller, as you would say, frog legs. However, 6 foot tall on average height.
Interesting. Thank you for that. And what about your eyes? Because frog eyes are known for being very large. Are your eyes very large as well?
Yes, roughly 2 to 4 inches diagonal on each top side of our head. We can see behind us, on the side of us, and we have a slit of a clear cover, which allows us to see underwater.
Wow, I almost feel like the biological one known as Laura is going to have to get the transcript from this episode and make a book or something, or some kind of little oracle card, messages from you folks, because this would be helpful for a description. So I'm also wondering about your tongue. I wonder if it's a forked tongue. I wonder if it comes out like a frog.
Roughly 2
Sticky?
feet. Yes, sticky, roughly 2 feet. Slender, more slender on the tip of it to extend. Yes, it does roll up. However, it's not to the point where we cannot speak. 99.9% of our communication is telepathic. This is telepathic via the entity known as Laura or Lolo, Starseed Lolo, because she is one of us and we are one of her. So are you, which is something we think is important to mention.
Well, it's interesting you say that because you may or may not be able to answer this, and it's okay if you can't. But in my dream life, which I feel is part of my past life and alternate realities. There's two folks in particular. The lizard lady. I'm part lizard. I'm not a frog. I'm not a mermaid. I don't know what I am, but I'm some kind of lizard folk. And then also there's another archetype where I'm this goldfish dancing on land. And both of these archetypes, even the goldfish, it's like amphibians. I can be in the land, on the land, I can be in the water, but at some point I need to get in the water, at some point I need to get back on the land. But anyways, I'm wondering, like, do you know the lizard lady or the goldfish dancing on land? Or maybe just focus on the lizard lady first. The lizard lady used to take eyeballs. She had a forked tongue. She was humanoid. And she was isolated, might have been the only one of her kind on this planet, if it was this planet. And the Homo sapien folk were evolving, and she felt uncomfortable about behaviors like rape and stuff like that. And they would come to her for help. And anyways, to make a long story short, she would take an eyeball to change perspective. And then she learned that that wasn't the right thing to do. And, she made peace. But and I just, who are her folk? Like, do you know her? Do you know who her folk are? Who are her, who's her family?
Star family.
Whatever information you have, I'm open to it.
Not much on the goldfish, however, on this reptoid, which is a humanoid reptoid, which we are seeing portrayed to us, showing herself with red eyes and purple skin or purple scales. She is of, as you're saying, amphibious. However, she is also reptoid, much of a hybrid of reptoid and amphibian, with ties to Alpha Draconis, which is part of the dragon energy which you carry, which has to do with Kundalini activation and awakening, love of snakes, the infinite universe, the spiral which goes on forever, the repeating numbers, all the synchronicities, everything in the Project Isis 30 Unity consciousness, yourself as a container. This is another iteration of you, which is why you are tied to her. She is also one of your spirit guides. And as you said, she has started experiencing what some quote unquote call the dark side and has flipped her consciousness to white healing magic. This is another thing that people in the community speak of with a lot. It is love and light. However, this is not true. Everyone, including our collective, have had quote unquote, as they say, dark lives, because there are two sides of the same coin. And this is something that we love to point out.
That's very fascinating. Thank you for that. I feel like I could ask you lots more questions just on the lizard lady alone and her time period and lots of other storylines. Okay, so the goldfish dancing on land. The goldfish dancing on land was persecuted by some ET folk. So to make a very long story short, what basically happened was there was no such thing as the moon. There's just sunlight only, and the sun would rise and then set, and it created shadows. And this fascinated the goldfish dancing on land. This goldfish was on life high 24/7. Okay, that's why dancing on land. And the goldfish basically started dropping big stones, which formed a clock, a big circle. And that attracted the ET folk. And they came here demanding answers that the goldfish pretended that he didn't know, but knew the answers in the sake of protection. So I was wondering if you can tell me about this clock. Because I was wondering, is that like a monument that can be found today on planet Earth or somewhere else?
It is a symbolization of an archetype of the all. in you being in what they call the video game matrix experience. The experience of time is real. The experience itself, however, time and space are not real. Therefore, the clock is there to remind you that you are an infinite being, albeit subject to time in your experiential frequency, which is anchored by your essence, your energy. Roughly 2% is having the human experience, while roughly 98% is with source. Therefore, the clock symbolizes, quote unquote, what's really happening. Time is not real, it is just an experience, and is something which you love in particular because you're a master at mastering time and time management and production and organization skills. However, you're also a master of the matrix, of reading energy and what they call the Akashic records as well in your dreams, which this reality is also a dream within a dream within a dream infinitely. You know this. Therefore, your books about dreams are accurate in describing other realities which you are currently a part of, because there is no time. Time is inconsequential because it does not exist. This is how the clock ties in.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We've had a question from the chat, but just to wrap up the goldfish dancing on land. So another really long story short, after the goldfish died, so the ET folk refused to allow the goldfish to go back into the water. So eventually the goldfish on land dehydrated and died. But the goldfish died laughing in a state of hysteria because it smelled really good. And it was the scent of fish jerky. And the goldfish dancing on land actually ate part of himself and even offered it to the ET folk, which made them feel very uncomfortable. But anyways, what I was going to ask is, when the goldfish dancing on land died, Mother Nature had a shit fit, so to speak. Mother Nature wanted to just give up and kill everybody and forget everything. And there were a lot of spirits who couldn't help out because they would reveal like the whole species and whatnot. So it was a lot of heartache when the goldfish dancing on land died. And so Mother Nature and whatnot realized that it wouldn't be fair or right or just, because there's folk, if you will, that had nothing to do with this, right? So basically, the first fall, where the leaves change color, resulted because of the goldfish's death. And this is how the goldfish would be honored, that every year there would be a cycle of destruction. And the color orange in particular would be really special. That's just side story. But my question, I mean, if you have any information on that, that'd be great. But my question is that, like, there was something secretive that happened. The goldfish's body was taken underwater, and underwater there's these caves. So fish and other folk can hang out there, and if they need to get out of the water, they can go into these underwater caves so that they can breathe. There's air. So arguably there's folk that have never actually surfaced because they're able to live an amphibian lifestyle deep in the depths. And my understanding is the goldfish's body, or special symbol, there's like a little place somewhere where you can go visit the grave. I don't even know. Do you know anything about what I'm talking about? It's okay if you don't. But I was wondering, does anything sound like anything to you?
Other than the fact that you are a gatekeeper of elementals and certain animalis, as I say in Latin, animal species, no. However, you are connected because you are also an elemental. And this is why you are connected to animals, animalis, Mother Nature, amphibians, avian, birds, you name it, you're connected to it because you are an elemental in a parallel reality. Let's just say this.
Okay, thank you for that. And that does resonate with me because people talk about like secret space programs and whatnot. And I'm like, where do I fit in? And honestly, I feel like I'm in an elemental, like I predate these storylines. Like I was transformed into a machine or something because I was, like you said, an elemental. And just a final thought from the lizard lady was there's a part in the story where like people are afraid of her because she's very outer worldly looking. But so she hides, but they come to her and they go to the water and they talk to the water because they think that she's some kind of goddess of the water and she's not. So there's some confusion, but she wants people to know, like, that is her. That is her, like some lizard lady, like a real biological folk that lived for a very long time. So that's kind of cool. If anybody out there has any stories about ancestors who went to the water to give thanks for like generations after the fact, because some lizard lady, some goddess of the water, that's her. Okay, thank you for that. There's a question here from Iron Bear. Iron Bear wants to know, this is probably, I don't know if this question's for Starseed Lolo or the Darchi, maybe for both, but in the Star Wars movie, are you closer to the species that says it's a trap, or more closer to Lando's crew member on the Millennium Falcon?
Closer to the former, the first one.
Okay. Any more insight on why that might be, or hints or clues?
We would like to go back to the reptile lady of the lake. She is an oracle. She is water. She is the energy of water essence itself as an element. You being an elemental, pick up on that because that is one of the elements. That's where we'll leave that. As far as the Darty, we look much like half fish, half frog with a humanoid body.
Okay, thank you for that. So for what it's worth, you can't just walk out in, like you couldn't just hop in a car and go to the mall. It would freak everybody out because the way you look. But do you ever put a costume on to go out in public, to disguise yourself? Do you desire to mingle with the common folk?
Yes, we have, and yes, we do. We use a cloaking device. However, the more accurate way to do it is to just transfer our consciousness into an AI consciousness controlled container.
Interesting. And your environment, when I recognize you're humanoid, but I taught a lot of kindergarten, and I always think about the pond folk, and frogs are very much part of the pond. And I wonder, like, do you tend to gravitate more to the pond where people can find like moose and deer and beavers, or are you more like into the lake and oceans?
Lake and oceans, as you say, there are a lot of domes, deep underground military bases, and stations under the oceans. This earth is roughly 2/3 oceans, and the cities are larger under the oceans beyond your wildest dreams.
Yes, it seems that way. And these cities that are under the ocean, are they in the water? And are there other cities inside caves where there's air, almost as if you were on land?
There are a few. Most of those lead to a portal or a jump room, which is interdimensional.
Interesting. Um, I wish I had more time with you because I never really thought to ask questions about my book series. And now I'm like, what about this person? What about that person? But there's one archetype called the Purple King. And he's me a very, very long time ago. And he's really connected to cats. It's too long of a story to get into, but I'm just wondering, like, before the Purple King even heard about cats, like, I think cats were always part of my life in some way, shape, or form. And when I think of Star Family, I think of the Lyrans. But I'm wondering, are there any other cat folk out there? Are we just putting all the cat folk into one category like we tend to do with the reptilians?
Correct. There are multiple species, infinite number of species, and infinite number of realities of various different cat beings. However, the ones, which this version of Gaia 2.0 in the lower fourth dimension, we are a higher fifth dimension, are known of are Delirians. Delirian cat people don't just have lions' heads, they also have tiger heads, solid color heads, and different species within the species of their own species.
Yes, thank you for that. I'm always full of questions, but I know we've been chatting for a while now. One more question, two more actually. Do you ever feel annoyed? Like, do you ever just feel like, ah, geez, like I wish this whole planet was like instead of Homo sapiens sapiens, basically, ruling this planet, going to work, driving the cars, colonizing the land. Do you ever wish that it was your folk, the Darchies?
Yes and no. We'll be honest. When humans turn on nukes, we are not too crazy about that because this affects every dimensional space and time, reality and actuality, which is why the grays and whatnot, Ebens, shut them off even if they're just doing quote unquote testing. And which is why there will not be a nuclear holocaust, no matter how much fear mongering might be out there. If you choose not to hear fear mongering, you won't. Keep on scrolling, as they say. However, we have unconditional love for humans because you are another version of us. We are another version of you. Infinite means infinite. Unconditional means unconditional.
Yes, forever and ever and ever. Um, I have so many more questions for you. I know I said, one more, two more, but what if things like hygiene, like brushing your teeth? Do you have teeth? Do you, how do you freshen up? Are you into things like makeup and hair dye? Do you wear glasses or contacts?
We do not need
Do you
glasses
smoke
or
cigarettes?
contacts. We do not prefer to use substances to pollute our body. We also have genetically modified elements such as perfect vision from death to birth. We also have the option not to have an amphibious body or any body at all. We also have echo chambers, which you describe as like a medical bed. Therefore, we can be 500 years old and look as if we're 5 days old. We also have other options for consciousness body containers. Again, we can be what you call artificial intelligence, moving our consciousness. We can be even a human looking consciousness. We can be any extraterrestrial consciousness. Bodies, including artificial bodies, non-organic or organic, are optional since we are upper fifth dimensional beings.
Oh, that's fascinating. And Rogelio is just tuning in with us here, and he's wondering what's going on. Rogelio, we are channeling with the frog people, the Darchies. So if you have a question, put it in the chat because we're going to be saying goodbye to them shortly. But if you have a question, there's a few of you tuning in live with us. Put it in the chat. Don't be shy. Any questions that you have, maybe they'll have an answer, maybe they won't, or maybe you can get a clue or something like that. It's always fascinating. I know I'm always full of questions. I'll just ask maybe a few more questions while people are waiting, and then we'll formally say goodbye. Oh, good. We got one from Rogelio. Okay, Rogelio is wondering, does quantum engagement cross over dimensions?
We assume you mean quantum energy, quantum mechanics. Source is all. The all is the all. there actually are no dimensions because it is all one source, such as spoken by the law of one very often. However, the experience of different dimensions is a true experience. And yes, all dimensions have quantum energy, if that is what you're asking.
He wants to know everything.
Everything.
Well,
Everything is source. That is everything. You are of source. There is no good and there is no bad. Everything is of source. Two sides of a coin. There is no dark. There is no light. There is only source. However, the experience of the dichotomy of the yin and the yang, the evil and the good, the light and the dark, is just an experience.
and I didn't realize there were different kinds of dimensions. Well, I mean, there are no dimensions, but initially, like the question was, does quantum engagement cross over dimensions? And you were like, this kind or that kind. Can you say those again?
If you're talking quantum
I can't.
entanglement, yes, everything is entangled. That is why you realize another version of yourself in what you call a past reality, and it is actually a parallel dimension or reality. Each of you are a portal, literally walking around. Therefore, you are looking at another reflection of you when you experience another quote unquote entity, being, person, object, inanimate object. There is nothing outside of yourself.
Thank you for that. Um, so there's no more questions coming in from the chat. But for what it's worth, something that I wanted to say last time, but I guess I was not shy, but just uncertain. And I wanted to say this too with Soma Ra, with the Pleiadians. And Virgilio is saying thank you for the clarification in the chat. You're welcome. I'm glad you got the clarification. Okay, so straight up, this is coming from the heart. So it's going to come out however it comes out. But if folks like the Darchies or anybody, Pleiadians, doesn't matter to me the names, wanted to connect with me, it needs to be through the clairsentience or in my dreams. Otherwise, it hands down freaks me out. You know, like if you folks wanted to connect with me and randomly came through my wall, that would not be cool, right? Or like, I'm just wondering, like, are you folks familiar with the protocols here? Like, if you wanted to connect with somebody, like Rogelio, for example, how might you do that in a way that doesn't freak us out?
That is up to the soul fractal, soul agreements. This one here, Starseed Lolo, she calls herself in this iteration. She is fine with seeing us in person. However, she asks that we put a veil on her afterwards so she is not quote unquote scared in her human body. It depends on the experience and level and type of experience you would want. We do not like the word abduction because every energy, including yourself or any human experience, has free will. Free will allows you to do as you wish and not to do as you wish. If you would like us to visit you in the physical, we will. If you would like us to visit in your dreams, we will. If you would not like to see us jumping through a window or walking through a wall, we won't. However, in dream time, in the astral world, unless you are trained or aware of lucid dreaming, what will happen will happen.
Okay, thank you for that. The reason I say that is because I'm just starting to get in touch with people like Lolo Starseed, Lolo, Laura Ferguson. So it's really cool asking questions, but I just wanted to make sure that nobody's going to be coming through my wall in the middle of the night, because back when I was in grade 2, those 2 angels that came out of my wall, it was totally not cool. It was not okay. And it left me traumatized to actually have blurred vision. Okay, we got one final question, this time for real, a final question. This one's coming from Iron Bear. Iron Bear is wondering, if I am in contact with spirit guides, Lyrans, Nordics, and ancestral bloodlines that come through me. Oh, he's wondering if he is in contact with Lyrans, Nordics, and ancestral bloodlines.
Not if you are. And no, you are not crazy if you hear words that do not feel like they're coming from your human self. Those are reflections and other versions of you via coming through your higher self or guides. Does that make sense?
Let us know in the chat, Iron Bear, if that made sense to you. What would you recommend for somebody like Iron Bear to strengthen the connection? Is there a little song and dance that he should do, or something special?
Before he goes to sleep, you can speak to the beings, the star family, which he is interested in working with or speaking with or experiencing more on this human version of himself. He can write them a letter. He can sing a song to them. However, it's mostly important that he does it before he goes to sleep, because in dream time, he doesn't need a body and he can do as he wishes, free of the constraints of what you call a body.
Thank you for that. And Iron Bear is following up saying, yes, because I do hear different voices, especially English accent ones. That's very interesting.
That is how your higher self is portraying it to you, because it is how you feel comfortable and how you would wish to hear it or see it or feel it, which is fine. You can speak back to them. You can hear, they will hear you telepathically, because they're 7th dimensional beings, sometimes higher than that, sometimes 6th dimensional, sometimes 5th dimensional, even higher. As I say dimensions, like we said, there are no dimensions. However, there's an experience of dimensions. Within this experience, you are tied to them because you are another version of them. No, you are not crazy if you're asking us that. Yes, you are hearing them. Yes, they hear you back, just with a thought.
Excellent. And I feel like I can hear the biological one's timer or something. So if you need to transition out, thank you so much, the Darchi people, for hanging out with us today. It was really awesome. We got some really good insight here. And Rogelio is just saying, like, yeah, so basically acknowledging them will get their attention. And then going to recommend Laura's website, because where did that comment go? Right here. Rogelio, I've tried to astral project. I've wanted to experience that, and I do have many questions. I know, right? Like, can't we just see, because the way we answer questions, it leads us down a pathway that we weren't expecting to even go, right? But you could, I'll put Laura's information here on the screen. It's in the chat. But you could visit Laura's website and see what she offers there, because we did talk about mentorship earlier. And so even if somebody wanted to have a session with Laura where you asked her all the questions that you want for a rate, and then Laura would give you that personalized attention, that would be a real win-win situation, because Laura loves doing this, right? And then it would be all about you. You wouldn't have to share her like you have to share her with me right now. So
That's
yeah,
right.
definitely get in touch.
And I'm awake now.
You're welcome.
Back. Thanks. You're welcome, Iron Bear, and thank you, Gina, because a lot of people don't realize that when we're bouncing off of each other, we're both channeling. You are channeling via Gina, from your higher self, or what have you, however you want to describe it. And what's meant to come out comes out. If you would like to spend individual time with me, please reach out to me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we should say goodbye to you. I don't know if you were consciously aware, but I think your alarm was going off. So just in case you needed to be somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know.
That's to take a pill, but yeah, it's about that time.
Hey, is it the red pill?
Yeah, it's a red pill.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to remove you from the stage, Laura. Thank you so much for being on my show, a returning guest, and for all your time, energy. Hopefully you're not tired of me, but now that the conference is over, we'll still be in touch, connecting behind the scenes. And I'd love to have you back again. More songs coming out. It's really nice to have you channel here today. So thank you so much for that. All right, everybody. Laura Ferguson, also known as Starseed Lolo, getting lots of attention in the Dragon Dream Soul Tribe Collective community because we've got mini movies on the go featuring two of Laura's songs, Dark Night of the Soul and The Dragon, which were played. If you missed them, don't worry, you can catch the replay, or it's on my playlist, mini movie medicine, whatever I called it. It's very fresh in my head. I don't remember it all. And then also Laura created the intro outro for this very show, Story Species, Story Medicine, and also was the healer and presenter at the recent Summer Days conference. So there's lots to say about Laura, and I feel really excited about the mentorship piece, because I can see a lot of people out there having a desire to do something like she does, where you work with the AI and then you make it your own, you know, or maybe you don't want to make it your own. You just want to leave it as AI. But if you want to follow her lead, she can help you with that. Or if you wanted to book a private session to get private channeling and ask all your questions, you know, I would have them all written in advance, some backup questions, because you never know which direction it's going to go into. Clearly there's lots to say. Check out my Buy Me a Coffee, show me some loving, and in just a moment here I'm going to end the stream, but thank you so much to those of you who tuned in. It was good to see you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. So just a reminder, this outro was created by Laura Ferguson, Starseed Lolo. So all right, Dragon Dreamers, take care, and we'll see you next time.
Story Species, Story Medicine, Extra Strength. Ready to take your medicine with Gina Casella?
Species of medicine, open for the task. Extra strength is everything you'd ever ask. Many with the soil, many with the sea. Earth is a medicine for you and for me. Scrubbing out the tarnish, building up the trust. Honest little tales, rising from the rest. Truth is in the living, truth is in skin. Open up the portal, let the healing in. Extra strength, extra soul. Medicine to make us whole. Feel the rhythm, feel the pace. Yeah, every single space. Are you ready for the cure? Keep it steady, keep it pure. Extra